pretty awesome. If you just, you can share the work daily. You don't have to, quote unquote, preach to someone or do a workshop or whatever. I've been going to physical therapy for several months, where I fell down Airfront Hill, and it's going great. And actually, I got a text this morning from one of the therapists, and I haven't really said a whole lot to him. It's been, when he's working on me or whatever, and working on my shoulder, and I'm like, okay, I fell down the hill and I jerked my shoulder back, but, what is it that, am I carrying some weight that I need to let go of, the weight of the world on your shoulder. If you're, my hip, okay, what is it about moving forward, or, what is it I can't stand? So look at all of those things. I often refer to Louise Hay because she has a book, Heal Your Body, and those are things that she talks about, is that, whatever it is, mentally, emotionally, it manifests physically. And so, yeah, you can do things like, go to physical therapy or, take an aspirin or whatever, but the underlying cause is always, all right, what are you thinking? Because our mind, our heart, our spirit, they're all connected. They all interplay, and what impacts one impacts the other. And so, looking at, what is it that I need to work on here? And so I kind of talked about that with the therapist as he was working on me, and like, okay, so I need to look at what is it that I can't stand, or am I, do I hold fear about moving forward, or do I feel like I'm carrying too much weight on my own shoulders? What is it I need to let go of? And it was, Michael had mentioned yesterday, he said, even though I've come a long way and I'm like 99% better, but there's still a little bit there. And he said, well, have you asked Greta to show you what it is that you need to let go of? And I said, yeah, I've asked, but, I haven't gotten an answer. And so he said, well, Rika always answers. He said, you just got to listen. Well, I had a dream last night, and it was that, I was in this boat, but it was a small boat, like a canoe or a kayak, but it was made out of wood. And I was in this calm water, but right near me was like this waterfall. And, of course, at the bottom of the waterfall, the water's rough and, bouncy and everything where the water's hitting. And I was like in this boat, and I was trying to determine if I thought that I could go over that waterfall safely and easily. And, I was working on making up my mind on whether to go over or not when my boat starts leaking. And it's like, okay, if I can scoot back further in the boat, maybe it'll lift the nose of the boat up where it's leaking, and I could stay in the water a little bit longer. But the back seat was missing, and so I couldn't move anywhere. I was just there. And so anyway, Michael said, well, water represents, the spiritual aspect. And so, it's going to seep through, your unconscious is going to seep through, just like that water was seeping into my boat. And it's just a matter of listening for the answer. And, what is it that's seeping through that you need to pay attention to? So all of that was pretty interesting, and that's what I've been looking at and working on. But anyway, to get back to, I had mentioned to the therapist, about looking at those areas. And so this has been, several weeks going on, and he's said today, he texted me, and he's like, I would like to have a session with you. He said, you've got really nice healing energy, and he says, I'm going through some things. And so I would, like to set up a session and see where we go from there. So, you can do that. You can, just be talking in general, like I was talking about myself. Sometimes if you go to someone and they're having an issue and you start pointing out, well, perhaps this is wrong or perhaps that's wrong. Sometimes they'll put up a defense. They'll put up a wall, and you don't get any further with them because, they're ready to defend their stance. And so sometimes I tell people, well, if whoever the object of your attention is, whoever's your trigger, if you can get them just to sit beside of you and hold the space while you do a worksheet on your issue, even if it's about them, you don't necessarily have to say, I'm going to do this worksheet about you. but they get it, you know. And like when I was talking about the work and looking at issues, I was actually talking about myself. You know, I didn't point out anything to him, but it was like it opened the door, and he felt safe enough. Then it's like, okay, I want to, you know, see what this is about and see if this can help me. So, you know, you can be a witness in your everyday life without actually, you know, trying to go down somebody's throat with what you believe. And like I said, we always tell people, you know, don't believe a thing we say, but put the tools to work in your life. They work. And while I'm still talking here, I am going to send Michael a text and say, are you okay? But anyway, if you have a comment about what I just said or a question or anything, I'm open to talking with you. So press 1 if you're on the switchboard. If you're on another station where I can't see you, 563-999, excuse me, 3581. I swallowed wrong, excuse me. So, and he just walked in the door. There he is. So he'll be with us here in a second. All right. So I'll talk just another minute or two and give him a moment to dial in. So press 1, talk to me. Don't need to do a monologue here. Several people on the switchboard. You know, we're missing for day 16 shows. And so the downfall of that is that I think we have lost some of our listening audience. I don't know if people tried to call in day after day and couldn't get in, and so now they're like, I'm not going to try. So hopefully they'll all come back. If you know of someone, you know, you might give them a shout and say, hey, dial in. 541, you are in the air. Who do I have?
Celinda.
Hi, lady. How are you?
Hi. Hi, lady. I just wanted to tell you, I am good, that I loved your monologue, so keep them going. Michael?
Thank you.
You got a good woman there.
Well, he's not on yet, so you'll have to repeat that once he dials in.
Okay, great. No, between Dr. Tim and Susan and what you shared this morning, I would love to have this archived. I think this is a great show.
Awesome.
As one of the special shows, yeah.
Yeah.
I was, I really got a sense about, I've been thinking a lot about control, you know, why we have the goals we have and what's the difference between power and control. And so it's all been really, really good. I really appreciate Michael reminding me that listen is my word, because I didn't even see it, and to receive. Both of those are difficult. I tend to be a matcher. Feel obligated, you know, and I'm realizing just to receive. And the other thing I've realized is the law of giving and receiving. I'm noticing how in all the aspects that I'm paying attention to, giving always precedes receiving, just like the exhale drives the inhale. This life just gives, because that's what Yeshua was talking about when he said, give without measure. You know, when somebody comes to you to buy something, put all down really hard and give them more than their pound. You know, it's so sweet. And control, you know, control is always a dead-end street, and it's always about survival. And I'm just realizing that's unnecessary, because true power always empowers self and other.
And there are a couple of things popped in my mind as you were talking there, and you know, the first being like as far as control, you know, for me. Now, this may not be for everybody out there listening, but it's connected to as I was growing up, and especially when, you know, I got into an early marriage and it was abusive. It's like because it was unsafe, I felt the need to control my environment to not be physically hurt. And so it like taps in, and you do it for so long, then even things that are not threatening, you know, if you get to the point where you feel like you don't have control, then it's like this automatic, you know, it's the file folder effect. And it's like, oh, in the past when I didn't have control over the situation, then I got hurt. And being able to trust, I think that's goes hand in hand with the control issue, is being able to trust, you know, things are different. This isn't that situation. This person is not that person. And it's safe to trust and to let things be with the flow instead of trying to control it all, and to see that, you know, as long as we're holding on to, I've got to control it, you know, I've got to stay safe, you know, what is it? Course in Miracles says, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. My strength and my safety lies. And so, you know, when we can let go of that need to control and handle it and everything, then we let go, we're more in that defenselessness and in that trust. And then there's not the need for control, because the flow just happens and it's awesome. And when you were talking about the giving and receiving, one of the things that popped in my mind, there was a little story, you know, a made-up story, somebody going into heaven, and when they meet God or Yeshua, you know, and it's like all these gifts are piled up over in the corner, not wrapped, you know, not unwrapped. And the person that goes into heaven's like, you know, well, what are all these? And God says, those are the gifts that I had for all of my children, and they wouldn't receive. You know, he has a lot for us, but we block the receptivity, and it's like, oh, no, I'm not worthy of that, or, oh, no, that can't happen for me, or, oh, no, you know, and we block our own gifts that are there to be offered to us. And just, you know, you have to be receptive to receive. You know, we always pray, you know, God bless me with this and bless me with that, but yet then if we're, you know, like, oh, no, it can't happen to me, we block it, and then it's like, why didn't he answer my prayer? It's like the little story of the guy that, you know, he lived in a flooded area, and they said there was a flood coming, and he's like, but I pray to God, God's going to save me. And a guy comes by in a little rowboat and says, hop in, you know, the flood's coming, and he's like, no, I'm okay, you know, God will take care of me. And then as the flood waters rise, you know, and he has to end up moving to the roof of his house, and a helicopter comes by, and they're like, here, we'll lower the ladder, get on, you know. No, God will take care of me. Well, when he drowns and he's up in heaven, he's like, I believed in you. I thought you would save me. He says, why didn't you save me? And God says, I sent you a rowboat and I sent you a helicopter. What more do you want? You know, so sometimes, you know, our gifts might be in a hidden different form than what we're looking for. But and then one other thought, and then I'm going to turn it over to Michael. I'm on a roll here. Sorry about that.
Oh,
I'm not.
Yeah, you're on a wonderful roll, and I have.
Go for it, honey. Keep going.
Yeah, I have a little to add to that too. I love that in the reflections of what you're saying.
Okay. Well, one other part. This morning when I was going to physical therapy, and I was actually running a little bit behind, and I got there and I was waiting on the elevator to come down, and this little lady comes up and she goes, where is Dr. Walker's office? And I said, well, I don't know who Dr. Walker is. And she had a little paper in her hand, and I looked at it, and all it said was Walker. It didn't have any other information. I said, you don't have a phone number? And she says, no. And so I tried to do a Google search on my phone for Dr. Walker, and I said, well, you know, what are you having done? And she goes, I don't know what they're going to do to me. And, I mean, you know, she's an older woman, and I thought, well, who just dropped this poor soul off, you know? I said, are you even at the right address? And a woman came in with a baby, and she says, well, maybe she knows who Dr. Walker is. And the woman with the baby, she says, oh, I think that's the OBGYN upstairs. Well, my first thought was, why would this older woman want an OBGYN? You know? And I said, well, come on, get on the elevator with me. We'll go upstairs. You know, and I'm already running late, but, you know, I felt such compassion for her that, you know, she didn't even know who she was going to see or what they were going to do or whatever. So once we got on the elevator and it was just she and I, then I asked her, I said, you know, well, what are your issues? I said, you know, you may not know what they're going to do to you, but what are your issues? And she put her hand down like where her womb would be. And she says, well, it's down here. And I said, oh, okay. I said, well, maybe you do need the OBGYN, you know. And so we get off the elevator, and I take her to the office there, and then I go back over to physical therapy. But it was like, and so I told, when I got into the physical therapy office, I was like, you know, my apologies, I'm late. I said, I was just trying to help a lost soul out here. And she said, well, you've done your kind deed for the day, you know, and they were okay with it that I was late. But anyway, go ahead, you add to it.
Well, it's just what you said. I mean, you touched on every one of my primary issues, which are trust, safety, and control. And, those are my issues. And also the issue of perfectionism. Because, my goodness, how much pressure I have put on my life all these years because of trust, lack of trust. And I, like Dr. Tim said today, there were very valid reasons why I developed a lack of trust. And the control and safety, you know, safety and then control would be the third one, and then perfectionism. Because I have come to a tentative realization, or a realization, I don't know if it's true or not, that this earth dimension has not involved with perfection. That is a false perception, that the perfection of this universe is process. It's not even progress for me, because progress is part of judgment. Oh, I should be here. Oh, this person should be there. So I'm learning not to should so much, and just allow my as I allow, I open up, and I can actually laugh when I get into a situation like the wiffle bird situation I got with you, Michael. and I actually laugh, and my time is shortening between when I realize that I'm not seeing things the way they are, and just going, oh, it's like the relaxation is amazing. So I wanted to share that with you. And also when you were talking
That's
about...
a sign you're making progress. That's a sign you're making progress when you shorten the time between working out of artificial intelligence, automatic responses, and working out of original intelligence. As you do your work, that time will shorten until it disappears. And you just function out of original intelligence.
You know what, Michael? I just realized I got into either or again. And when you said you're making progress, I think, wonderful, Michael. Now I can have progress and process at the same time. Isn't that sweet?
Absolutely.
And also the last thing I wanted to share with Jeanie is that control. You know, like if I'm not safe, like Jeanie, you mentioned, if I'm not safe and I begin perceiving everything as a loss of safety, isn't that similar to the slightest irritation is a reflection of the deepest rage?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, to me, I see similarities between there too. The slightest situation that triggers where I'm already triggered in safety, all of a sudden my mind sees it as monstrous, or as, oh my God, that's part of perfectionism too. Oh my God, I better nip this in the bud right now. That's all. I'm complete. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, the wiffle bird, in case you don't know what that is, Julie Andrews wrote under her married name a series of children's books, and one was The Last of the Really Great Wangdoodles. And the wiffle bird is in that book. That might be something to look up for Aria. I thought it was a great book. I read it when I was in my 50s and thoroughly enjoyed it. so I share that with you.
Cool.
And I am complete.
Celinda, I don't know if you were with us on the show the other day when we shared that we were able to breathe Ryan and Gabby and Aria at the same time.
Yes.
Were you on when we talked about
all that? Oh, that was sweet.
Yeah, it was.
And we have her. Aria's going to be here Friday. She leaves school early, so we're going to ask her to breathe us on Friday. Which I know she's just going to be so excited about. Yeah. No, we'll share it, but that's going to be our request on Friday.
Oh, cool beans. Go, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye now.
Okay, take care.
Bye. So, again, our caller number is 563-999-3581 and press 1. Welcome, Michael. I didn't mean to take
Well, thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody.
That was fun.
Yeah, that sounded like you had a good conversation and things are rocking. I was out collecting nutrition from the local places that generally throw it in the garbage, and for our soil building project here on the James and Alice Morris Homegrown National Park, where we're up to 5,000 square feet. I was out collecting the rotted wood from an old tree that I came across and putting it in our garden. So that was my project today. And, I'm realizing more and more, we had the conversation the other day about AI, and, everything as I was listening to both, we could put that whole conversation in the category of AI or original intelligence. And one of the thoughts that came was, when Yeshua said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God," what in our modern language today, computer language, would have said would be, "Seek ye first your original intelligence," rather than being lost in the automatic decision system of the mind, AI. And it's time for us to get out of it. And it synthesizes reality so precisely that we can get lost in believing that what our mind is showing us is actually out there. And it's not. It's a generational reflection of what we have been taught. And one of the things you have to do with AI when you start to do a project is you have to teach it. You have to give it the database and say, "Here, learn this. This is what we're going to do with this." And then you have to learn another skill. I've been doing a lot of listening, a lot of reading about it, and they're saying that the most important skill you can have in AI is being a prompt engineer. In other words, telling AI what you want it to do, just like with your mind. How often have we said, watch your words? Because your words are what instruct your mind how to create what's going to happen in your life. So become a prompt engineer in your own life with your own AI system. And remember that if you tell it that, well, I don't ever want anybody to attack me like that again, then all that AI hears in you is, find somebody to attack me like that again, and bingo, somebody's going to show up. And if somebody doesn't show up, then AI will set up a misperception so that you'll think you've been attacked, and the game will go on. So this whole thing we've been speaking about for years about language, Yeshua says the power of life and death is in our words. When you start correcting your language, you're becoming a prompt engineer for your own mind in AI language. And, recognizing it's really a misnomer to call it artificial intelligence. There is no intelligence in artificial intelligence. All there is a massive, 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 massive database that works really fast and responds to whatever you ask it. That's not intelligence. That's a reactive process. And this carbon-based memory, this body-mind system, is exactly the same. It's a massive multi-generational database, and if you ask it for something that's in it, then it's going to show it to you. There's no intelligence in that. It's just an automatic decision system, and that's what AI is a massive database that responds with its automatic decision system. And so recognizing that when the responses are so emotionally traumatic, and I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about their body being tight and they had to let go, and so I suggested, well, why don't you ask Ruka to tell you what you need to let go of? And the response was, oh, I've asked, but there just hasn't been an answer yet. And my response was, yeah, there's been an answer. You just haven't listened yet. You ask, that answer's always going to be there. Go ahead, sweetie.
I actually shared that was me, and then I shared about my dream. So
the boat leaking water. Yes, spirit's going to come up one way or the other. And so learning to listen is an important key, and to recognize that underlying the artificial intelligence in us is a power that we can enlist to bring that on board with our original intelligence. And that was called in Aramaic, Ruka. The Greeks translates the Holy Spirit. Of Course in Miracles talks about it as the Holy Spirit, but it's nothing to do with a disembodied spirit being. It is this feminine elemental force that does two things. It undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. When we become receptive to its prompting, and when we learn to ask it questions or give it commands that are based in our original intelligence, then it responds to match that intelligence, because it has literally access to every bit of data in the universe. Right now there are many companies that are competing. The Chinese are saying we're going to be dominant in AI in 10 years, and Google is saying we have we've absorbed all of the knowledge of the world and we have the best, and everybody's competing to play that game. And the truth is, in the universal scheme of things, we all have a line into that massive database, and we all are from the original intelligence and designed to work from that original intelligence. I was speaking to a man this morning who's a neighbor, and talking about his education. He was a professor, was about children, and I was talking about AI and original intelligence. And the word educate, educare, doesn't mean to put in. Educare means to draw out the original intelligence. Indoctrination is a system of putting things in that are designed to block original intelligence rather than entertain, inspire, bring forward original intelligence. And if you go back, there's an interesting, you can Google it, I don't have it in front of me, but there's an interesting statement that was made by the first director of the, I believe it was the American Education Board, was put up by the Rockefellers. And there was a gentleman who was a minister named Gates. And you look up Gates's letter he wrote about what his job was, what he'd been assigned to do. And basically what he said is, and some of this is a quote, it's not exact, but it's pretty close. What he said is, our job will not be to inspire people to become men and women of learning and professors. And our job will be to make those who are living down on the farm, doing their jobs, happy and better at staying down on the farm and doing their jobs. I think that's what's led 14 of the 15 states in America with the worst record for infant mortality, for maternal mortality, for healthcare deserts, for food deserts, for child poverty. 14 of the 15 states that are doing that say they're pro-life. And yet the maternal mortality statistics, the infant mortality, are dismal, just dismal. And I know a school teacher who lives in the one state of the 15 that isn't a red state. And I'm not talking about politics, I'm just talking about what's going on in our culture. And I called her because she worked in that state, and it was on that list. It was like number 5 or 6 on that list of 15 states. And I called because she was a school teacher there and very acquainted with children. It's like, what's going on? I don't understand why that state is such an anomaly. It's New Mexico. I said, oh, I can tell you. She said the population centers are so far apart. And, when she was there, she said the state had just passed 1 million people. She was a school teacher there several years ago. Had just passed 1 million people in the whole state of New Mexico. And the population centers are so spread out that they don't have the wealth or the population to support things like actual health care and things like actual grocery stores and food. And, so they're all issues that we ultimately need to resolve, and we need to come together to resolve these so that this awesome commonwealth, and rather than think of the Commonwealth as a country, the Commonwealth of Virginia, think of the Commonwealth as that wealth which we all share together in this country. You notice there's some people who want to take the Commonwealth out of the ground with billions of dollars and hand it to a certain group of people who will pay them good money for sequestering that wealth away from the Commonwealth and giving it to those corporations. And, there are issues that we just really need to look at and really need to deal with in that arena and work toward really truly connecting each person in our world with their original intelligence, which is what we're all designed to work out of. And a big part of being able to connect to that is knowing how to forgive, that is, remove the noise from the AI part of ourselves. The emotional traumas, the unresolved energetic patterns that scream so loudly that they demand, the automatic decision system demands that we become controllers, demands that we fight, demands that we kill, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's time to turn that around. I responded to somebody's Facebook post yesterday who posted, that how every family system has to have basically a bully. This was a young man I know personally who had one of his dastardly memories was when his father bought him a gun, and they went to the city where his former wife lived, this young man's mother, to kill her. That was what happened to this kid when he was about 14. Didn't do it, fortunately, but that's what they were there for. But he posted, and this young man now is in his 50s, and he posted how, every family needs a protector, someone who will rear up and fight and destroy anybody that would threaten the family system. And I wrote back and said, well, actually, what every family needs is someone who knows how to function as love and who's been through that fight game and realizes that if they don't heal that in themselves, then sooner or later it's going to turn around and it's going to destroy their family, which is exactly what happened with his parents and his family system. So he was very receptive. He posted back, thank you. My response was, no, we need someone who's got that bully, who's got that fight, who's got that rage, who's got that hatred, who's got that vengeance, that's willing to heal it instead of leave it intact to be passed on to future generations and destroy the next generation through that automatic decision system, but will face it and heal it and step into their original intelligence as love and bring that into the world fully. And that, in essence, is what this work is about. And so I hope that fits and makes sense for everybody, and we're at about the 20-minute 2 points. So we've got about 22 or 23 minutes left. If you're out there in listener land, let's say hello. Awesome. Great.
All right, 336, you're on the air. I think this is Terry.
Hello.
Well, hey there, young man. Welcome.
How are you?
I'm rocking. How about you? How do you be?
I'm having so much fun.
What are you having fun with, Terry? What's happening?
The AI dialogue and the immensity and the size of it and all the stuff that's going on and the potentialities, what is going to be happening here on this little playground we call Earth, where we come and play out all these dramas,
right,
and live this life. But one of the things is it's really easy to slide over into the side of the righteous defender, which is, looking at some of these situations. And then I want to remember and remind myself, like I was talking with you the other day, it's all chapter 24, the has-been. I love that. All this is this one big conglomeration of the mind energy that is, and it's all available now, becoming more and more available, and there's going to be a lot of disruption of systems and all that kind of stuff. And the key for me is, no matter what, I've just printed out a nice poster, hang up in my shop. There is no peace in fear.
And there is no future in the past.
There's no future in the past, that's what it's called. And it's so much fun and exciting to think about it. And really, the David and Goliath stories that are coming together, and how the whole health care system is going to be booted out, on its rear end, and the same with the educational system that's turned into these big money-sucking machines. That's my opinion. Okay, and there was the one guy on the show was talking about how he had the ability to tap in and use the AI resources. He's a computer scientist and was able to also, he had a lot of money, so he could access some really fine doctors, top physicians, and were able to microdose his son, who had autism and hadn't spoken it since he was born. He was like 12 years old and he started talking, because they could take that information and figure out what was going on with the chemical composition of his brain. And it's like, whoa. And he said, and that, my friend, will be available to everyone, not just me, the special people with the money and the abilities. But since this information is ramping up, that's the potential here. It's universal health care, basic income for everyone. It's possible. I can see it. It's a really beautiful potential horizon. And if you can't tap in to love like you're talking about, it's worthless. Because you'll still be stuck in that whole battle. And the battleground is in my mind. That's where the battleground is. It's the only place that I can experience a lack of peace and love is through my own fears and the has-been and all that trash that's floating around out there. And so with the tools that you've got, that you've developed, you don't have to live like that. You can live in peace. And the peace is internal. That's where people get confused. As far as I'm concerned, this is all my opinion. There's going to be wars and rumors of wars and all that stuff probably here forever. I don't know. It always kind of has been. However, what's going on with me? I'm the common denominator. You remember that, Michael? Of course you do. You coined that, the common denominator.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And I know that you're developing some stuff and working with some things, and I sent you a few little pieces that I had worked with just over the last, few hours, really, about some of the potentials. That was just raw, gritty, quick potential stuff that I was able to assemble. And that is the new frontier. So let me stop for a minute. I want to hear you say something.
Well, I'm with you. It is the new frontier. It's exciting, and the fact that we can take basically, virtually all of the knowledge in the world and have access to it in a millisecond through this technology is pretty amazing. And as you say, anybody can have it. And one of the things, there's a great warning in the Course in Miracles that says, and I'm thinking it came from A Course in Miracles. I'm not 100% sure, but the tools you use to produce a result always produce a result like the tools. And when you can teach your own AI device that, then it goes into its hostility game. You're thinking, oh, see, I can win by killing somebody else. It's like, okay, so notice that tool is going to produce a result in your life. You know, the old way it was said was, as you sow, you reap, that you're not going to like. And if you want to leach it on someone else, guess who's going to get the end result? Exactly.
Yep.
So it's all coming back. So it's but this technology that that Yeshua. Go ahead.
One of the fellows said that AI, they're calculating it. I don't know how they came with this, but the IQ of AI was at 155 now, the collective IQ, and then Einstein was 160. So they're fastly approaching what was the most intelligent human capabilities that we know of. One of the most brilliant minds, you know.
Right. Well, one of the quotes
soon will exceed that.
Right. Well, one of them was that we'll soon be at the point where AI will have more intelligence, not that it's real intelligence, than all of the human minds on the earth.
Yes.
And that's going to be a horse that we can all ride.
A horse that we can all ride. Yeah, I like that.
Everybody will have access to it, if they choose to. Now, of course, there'll be people who will resist and go the way of the dodo bird. But I think that it's got the potential for an awesome, bright future for everyone.
It does.
Including the eradication of war.
That potential is there.
So I join you in becoming a prompt engineer for our own human minds and for AI, and moving forward to this space where there is the realization in humanity that there is enough abundance for everybody to have it all.
Yes, and one key piece that for me that was crystal clear in the last few weeks is that the therapeutic value of one human interacting with another is without parallel. That will never be replaced. There's no way.
I'm with you on that. Original intelligence meeting original intelligence. Inspiring it, and we get enough people, we get a critical mass, then that little bit of leavening will leaven the whole loaf of humanity, and then we really start to see what human life is really capable of and what it's really about.
Exciting.
So it's pretty exciting. Definitely.
I wanted to jump in. I've got to step off for a moment. I'm pulling up to the job site, but I just I tuned in and heard your discussion and wanted to jump in for a minute and just share some of the excitement I'm feeling.
Cool. Awesome, my friend. We appreciate you. You have a blessed one. And come on back if your job site's all set. All right. Take care. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right. So our call-in number, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening to the show directly. If you push 1, we'll be having a conversation. How can we support you? What's on your mind? And to be leaving here, there's a young man who started doing this work, actually someone that Terry introduced. In fact, the last time we spoke to him, he sent me a picture of his stack of 1,800 completed worksheets in just the last few months. And he's actually on his way here as we speak, or actually might already be here in Bristol. And I'm heading over to the hotel to do a private still point session with him. I've done several still point sessions with him over Zoom, and he decided it was worth driving to do a one-on-one. personal session, so looking forward to that. If you happen to be listening, I'll see you in about 45 minutes. And beyond that, if you're out there in listener land, what's on your mind? How can we support you? What's exciting in your world? We are going to begin on the 15th of the month to work with the Enlightenment book. We're going to start right from page 1 and move through it and really do a deep dive into the Aramaic language, the Aramaic thought system, and the Aramaic tools. We'll probably get into some of the laws of living material and such. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go yet, but that's going to start on the 15th. And that the Enlightenment book is a book that we publish on what we've gleaned so far, from the Kabbur's manuscript, a copy of the oldest known New Testament in its original Aramaic language. And something I've been working with for the last, I'm not even sure exactly, 43 or 44 years. And so we'll be doing that Enlightenment book. If you would like to have the book to follow along, it is in our catalog on our website, and it sells for $25 plus $9 shipping. That's what the shipping is these days. Post office has gone a little crazy. And if you're interested in getting the book so that you can be part of the study, or you can take your own study to another level, you can order the book not by going to our catalog, because the catalog automatically adds that shipping. That's an automated thing that we have no control over. However, if you just go to our website and go down to the bottom of the page and look at the donate button and click it, if you do a donation of the $25 cost plus $1, $26, we'll pay the shipping and we'll get it out to you. The only thing we'll ask is when you make that donation, just make a note so we know what it's for, and give us your name and your mailing address, and that is for the Enlightenment book. And we'll get that out to you, and hopefully it would get there in time for you to have it right from day one as we go into that study. So that's one of the things that's coming up. I'm looking forward to going on another level into that Enlightenment book. It's something that I've worked with for several decades now, and looking forward to a deep dive and the questions and thoughts and directions that it goes with your original intelligence coming in and sharing with us what your questioning process is, what your healing process is, what your insight is. So I'm excited about what we're going to be doing with that. I'm delighted that that's going to be happening starting in just a week or so now. 15th of January, 2024. So we've got about 7 minutes left. If you're out there in this land, say hello. Push 1. What's on your mind? How can we support you? 563-999-3581. Any other thoughts for you, Jeanie?
Just that the 15th is next Monday, so that's a week from today.
Yes. I'm excited. Been working on preparing how we're going to approach that. It's going to be a whole new thing to present that through the radio show, so looking forward to how that goes. It looks like Blog Talk has resolved its problems. You were able to get in easy today, and all things are working well?
Yep.
Cool.
And
well, that's nice. Maybe they've got it.
to go ahead, though, and have the Podbean loaded and set up that you're following, and that way if something happens and we have to switch over, you'll immediately get a notice that Podbean is live for the MindShifters Radio, and you'll know that we're on over there instead of Blog Talk. So, go ahead and have it set up ahead of time instead of waiting until, oh, no, Blog Talk's not working, and then have to go through that setup process. So go ahead and do that.
So go to your app store and type in Pod, P-O-D-B-E-A-N, correct?
That's correct.
Download the app.
And they can also follow the notes that I put in. I sent out an email. It's also in our newsletter list. It's in the radio show notes. So there's several places where, if you're not on the mailing list, that you can get that information. And it's step-by-step how to set it up.
Cool. Sweet. So if you're out there in listener land, what's on your mind? Push 1. Let's have a conversation. We've just got about 6 minutes left. And it would be nice to have one more conversation before we complete today's show. How can we support you? Or we could just do 6 minutes of silence, do a meditation together. Nah, doesn't work very well on a radio show. So what's on your mind? You got a topic for us to take 5 minutes to talk about? If not, then I'll probably step into talking about forgiveness and the power of this tool to collapse the artificial intelligence within us and make room for original intelligence to show up within our own minds. Most human beings, I forget who it was that said, this goes back years ago that I heard this quote, and it's always stuck in my mind, although, as I say, I'm not sure who said it, but they said 100 million people live and die every century and never even know they've lived. In other words, they're living out of this automatic decision system, out of what is quite literally artificial intelligence. And the objective of life is to wake up beyond that, not to just live in that multi-generational database that seems to think, that seems to be original, and seems to come up with things of its own, but are just rehashes and reorganizations of old energetic dynamics that have been structured into our genes for generations and generations and generations. Now, that story of the Jews wandering in the desert is not a story about a hot, sandy place. It's a story about people lost in their own unconscious minds, literally lost in artificial intelligence, what appears to be intelligence that isn't intelligence at all. So we'll be integrating more and more of that into the conversation, I'm sure, as the days unfold. It's kind of a new direction for me that I've been looking into and working with, and it's already yielding several gifts for me anyway. I hope some of those things benefit you as well. So what is on your mind? How can we support you?
We're down to 2 minutes. No hands are up.
Two minutes. Well, let's just join together and take a couple of deep breaths. And as you take a deep breath, allow yourself to feel into your own physiology. To just notice the state of relaxation or the state of excitation that your physiology is in. Notice whether or not there are any tensions anywhere in your form. Breathe into those tensions, let them soften and let them go. Notice if there's any tension in your jaw, your calf muscles, your shoulders or your neck. If there is, then take your breath to those areas where there's tension. Let everything soften and just let it go. Aria about 2 weeks ago came up with a joke for us. And the question she asked was, why don't you give Elsa from the movie Frozen a balloon? And her answer was, because she'll just let it go, let it go. I love the sense of humor this little one is developing. It's pretty awesome, pretty sweet. So we're down to the last few seconds. I'm going to just say thank you for joining us, and I look forward to moving into the study of the Aramaic text, or the what we've published so far from the Divorce manuscript in the Enlightenment book, and hold the space for you to have the best year yet of your eternal life, and knowing that it's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.